Alright, so next in line out of that group of mowers is this brush cutter. And I guess one of the viewers had pointed out it's a DR brand, and I didn't realize that until I dug into it a little further. But that's a good call, because this is, I don't know how old this one is, I'll have to look it up, but when I was inspecting it, this was an electric start. And I took the battery out, and I'm trying to give it a charge right now, but I doubt if it's going to do anything. It's a little bitty battery, and I just noticed the pull start. I mean, it pulls. Oh. So the engine's not frozen or anything, it's just that little coil spring in there is probably rusted up. And I also noticed on the throttle here, you can see so the cable is moving up here, but it is not moving down there. So the cable is no doubt split somewhere along in here, and it looks like it's stuck in the off position. So I'll probably take that off, hopefully find a replacement. I looked online, and the throttle deal just comes as a whole assembly. Like, you know what, I'm gonna look. I'll bet I can find like an old cable that I've got saved from something. I know I had a few saved from a couple of old riding mowers. Maybe I can cut it down to size and fit it in. I have no idea the condition on this. There is no gas for sure. It is bone dry, and that's almost good. So at least we don't have old gas and all that crap to mess with. It's got oil. So I guess to start off, I'm just going to take this cable off over here so that I can move the throttle back and forth manually and get it out of the off position. And I'll fool around with the coil spring on the pull start here and see if I can get it working freely. And then I'll take a look at the air cleaner and carburetor and all that good stuff. The bulb seems to be intact. It's not split. It's not cracking on me. So that's good. This has a little rust in places on the wheels there and on the handles. So maybe I can treat the rust there, get it off. I might just paint it all black. Use that rust reformer stuff, and but let's do those three things first and see if I can get it running. Alright, so first thing, go ahead and pull the spark plug off. Let's see if I can't take this cable off. Yeah, it's definitely not moving. It's split somewhere in there. There we go. There's the manual throttle. Now I see what's happening. I don't know if you can see this up here. So up here, when I'm pushing it in and out, you can see the coils right here. They're stretching in and out. So at least the main cable is not broken, it's just stretching it like a spring almost, back and forth. As you can see there, it is actually moving in and out now. So I think I just need to, the good old WD-40, some kind of penetrating oil, and let it work its way through the cable and up here. Good, so we don't need a new cable, we just need to loosen that one up. While I'm doing everything else, I'm going to go ahead and spray this down. Alright, I think that's got it. Yeah, it's still stiff. I can pull it back, but I can't turn it on. It's still manual, but that's fine. At least we can work something to work with. Alright, let's get this pull start going. And I'll bet I can get this one going with WD-40 too. It happens a lot when it sits out in the rain or out in the weather. It'll just corrode up, and the coil springs just kind of bind up with all the corrosion on it. But once you get some penetrating oil on it, it usually comes off. So this time I went in and took the gas tank off. I usually don't. I usually just pivot it over. But I wanted to see what it looked like on the inside. I don't see any rat's nest or anything. But the starter does look to be pretty dirty. And I'm sure that carburetor needs cleaning too. Alright, well, let's take the housing off. Alright. Oh, I almost forgot the dipstick. There. Gotta loosen that up. I usually don't take it all the way off, I just kind of loosen it up enough to get it out of the way and rotate it around so no dirt will get in it. We which I'm probably going to change the oil anyway. Let's see, do I take that thing back off? Yeah, I do. I just put it on there. Looks like the linkage there got in the way. And to tell you the truth, now that I'm looking at it, let me show you what I'm looking at. So here's, yeah, there was the linkage for the throttle cable, and it felt like it's binding because it's kind of bent and shoving it out. But I think if I can bend this bracket out so that it's sitting more straightforward, move it out about 1/4 of an inch, bend the bracket out that way, I bet it'll work a lot better if this cable's sitting here instead of mashed up against there. So I'll get the housing off and then I'll bend that bracket out. Alright, there she blows. So, looking at that, I'm going to start spraying WD-40 down, especially that little notch. You can see the end of the coil spring, the tab there. Usually spray it right down in there, and it gets all in the spring, and it helps loosen it up. I'm going to stretch it all the way out as far as I can. And spray some more in there. It feels like the wheel itself is binding somewhere. Oh, I can see where it's binding. See the piece of the rope sticking out right there. Let's try to jab that back in and see if it pulls a little better. Okay, that's a little better. Starting to pull back on its own. No slack. Alright. That's that. Doesn't need much. Yeah, I think it'll move a little more smooth if I can bend this out. Didn't do much. There we go. So I'm trying to put a little zigzag in it. I'm trying to bend it out here and then back in so that the cable will still be moving in a straight line. Let's get this lined up and see what it's going to do. Alright, there's the off. Alright, so I'm back. My camera battery went out again. I had been using it a lot, so yes, I need to invest in an extra battery for my main camera. So where I left off is just bending this bracket out. You can see now where I bent it out, but now the cable's going straight into it, not curved, and it's moving much more freely. So that solved. The pull string is pulling and retracting. So the next thing, I think I'm just going to first, I'm going to hose this sucker down before I take the carburetor, you know, the cleaner and carburetor and all that good stuff off. I'm going to pressure wash this bad boy and get some of the junk off of it. Alright, so it is cleaned off. It looks a lot better. That actually doesn't look too bad so far. Oh, this air cleaner's stuck on there. But still not as bad as I thought it was going to be. So what I'm thinking about doing, since all that's cleaned off, I might as well put the housing back on, and we can take a look at checking the spark. Well, I'll put the housing back on. I'll spray some carb cleaner down into the carb and see if I can prime it a little bit and get it to fire. If not, I'll check the compression. But let me put it all back together and see what happens. Alright, so I'm back with my regular camera. I took a break and let the battery charge for a while. And while it was charging, yes, I ordered another battery. I've had this camera for years and years and years. No complaints. And it's the Panasonic DMC G5. And it's been a fantastic camera. I just can't believe it took me so long before I got an extra battery for it. So, so where I left off, I'm going to spray this in the carburetor and see if it'll crank, make sure it has spark, and then we'll go from there. Don't know, oh, let's see. Alright, throttle's on. Alright, good sign. gave a quick crank. So I'm going to go ahead and put the gas tank back on. Put some gas in it and see if it runs regularly. I haven't even taken the carburetor off yet, but I might as well put it back on and see what it does. I don't know if the carburetor is clogged up or not. Because the tank was totally dry. That doesn't mean anything, but I'm just anxious to see if I get all that back on, and if I have to take it off, I'll take it off. It looks like there's still easy access even if I get the tank back on. Should be able to get to it no problem. So let's do that. Alright, so the tank is back on. I just put fresh gas in it. Everything's hooked up. Pump it a few times. I see gas getting in it. That's a good sign. Maybe it'll crank up. Cross my fingers. Have to crawl over everything. Couple more for good luck. Alright, so you can see I let it run for a while, and it's just all the built up residual oil and crap. You can see it burning off of the muffler there. It did smoke up quite a bit there for a while, but it was so coated with crap, I can see why. And also, I saw when I used the lever here and engaged the rotor, it engaged, but then when I released it, it was still turning. So I need to check the belt under there. The belt, and I'm sure there's a tensioner pulley. The way this works, because you have to go all the way down with this thing, then it locks into place. You hold this down, it locks, and then to let off, you let go of the handle. So it looks like the cable's sticking, or maybe that tensioner pulley under there is sticking, or I'll check the belt and all that good stuff. But I'll let it cool down, and then I'll go ahead and take that carburetor off. I think it's going to actually run pretty smooth once I get it going, because it was just pulsing, just the normal symptoms of a clogged carburetor. Alright, so I pinched off the fuel hose. There's my ratchet. Let me see if I can get this under here. Kind of cramped. Well, there's definitely gas in the bowl. Take the whole bowl off. See what that looks like. Yeah, it's just all down there at the very bottom. So I think I'm just going to clean this out and put it back in. It looks like the float is working properly. I don't know, it does look pretty dirty. You know, I might as well. think I'm going to turn it more on its side so I can see what's going on here. Yeah, that's pretty dirty. I'm going to clean the whole thing out. Yeah, so there's the carburetor. I'm glad I went in and took it off. There is a lot of junk up in there. Yeah, so this one's pretty interesting. This stuff is just oxidizing in there. I've been scraping it off and brushing it off, but you can see the end of the end here looks like it's just been chewed up. Don't know what happened there, but it looks pretty damaged. What I'm thinking about doing, get the bowl all cleaned out, get it to a point where I think it's going to run okay. But I think all this stuff, without, you know, ultrasonic cleaner, all that stuff, I'm never going to get all that out. Plus, this is kind of damaged. But I think I'm going to give it a decent cleaning, enough to get it running decently. And I might just replace this carburetor, because this thing looks pretty chewed up. I don't know what happened to that, but you can see it's all just mangled here at the end. And all this oxidizing stuff, without a ultrasonic cleaner, I'm never going to get all that out. I've been scraping it with a screwdriver, all the little nooks and crannies. But I think a lot of that stuff is just going to work its way loose and clog it some more. So that's cleaned out. Yeah, I think that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to clean the bowl out, put it all back together, run it for a while, and I'll probably just replace the carburetor. So here I am. I was putting the carburetor back on, and it looks like, you can see where I pinched off. I don't know if you can see that. If you can see the hose there, right where my thumb is, that's where I was trying to pinch it off. This hose is so old, it just put a couple of cracks in it. And I noticed even when I had it pinched off, the gas was dripping through there. So I'm going to replace this fuel line. I'm going to turn it all the way over. Yeah, see the splits on it. It's kind of a crappy hose. Got it on one of the carburetor kits online, everything made in China and stuff, but this is just, you know, at least it'll bend into place. It's not a preformed, but there's no fiber, you know, it's just a thick rubber. But it'll work. It's just not, I'd prefer to see a fiber reinforced hose. Alright, new hose. Let's bolt this sucker on. Alright, so the carburetor's back on. Didn't put the air cleaner back on yet. I'm going to clean that stuff up. But okay, I can see the gas flowing through there. Let's crank her up and see if it runs a little better. I'll probably let it run for a while and let it finish burning all all the crap that had accumulated on the exhaust muffler. Oh, I had it on off. All right. Yeah, so it's still running pretty crappy. That carburetor's just too far gone. I think even with an ultrasonic cleaner, because for some reason that little intake post on the carburetor looked chewed up. But so I'll definitely replace the carburetor, and I'm gonna turn this over, and I'll probably change the oil before it's all said and done. At least there's oil in it. But I guess I could do that because I'm going to turn it over on its side anyway to take a look at the belt. I'll probably turn it this way and drain the oil while I'm taking a look underneath. So let me take and that too, even the spark plug deal in there, the connectors look all, I might need to pinch that a little tighter, because it's just really loose over the spark plug. So, but let's do that. I'll set it up so I can drain the oil, and we'll take a look at the belt underneath. So here it is underneath. You can see parts of the blade looks pretty chewed up. Yeah, and there's your tensioner pulley. There's a lot of rust under here, but nothing seems to be frozen. The head's actually in good shape. Just I know, like right now it's not engaged, and so when you pull on the cable, tightens it up, and it was turning, but then when I disengaged it, it seemed like it stuck, like it was still trying to turn. So yeah, I don't know, other than just some chewed up marks on the belt, everything else looks fine besides the rust. I mean, it's still operating as it should, seems like. I'll just have to engage it and see what happens. I don't think it's sticking. And I don't know, I was looking on this side, I don't know if there's any way to adjust this. Doesn't look like it. Maybe it's just the cable itself. I need to make sure the cable is pushing and pulling like it should. Now look up here at the lever on the handle. Maybe it was in the same condition the other cable was. We just needed to work it back and forth a little bit with good old WD-40 and free up the cable. So I'm just letting all the oil drain out. I think that got most of it. Oh, there we go. I want a little more. Alright, let me finish the oil and put some new stuff in there. Alright, it's still pulsing. I'm going to engage the Alright, well, still doing the same thing. When I engage the belt, it tightens up and you can hear it spinning, you can see it, but when I let loose of the cable, it still spins. It won't stop unless you can see the skid marks on the ground, where I'd press it on the ground and force it to stop. Then it would stop. But I don't know if there's any adjustability on that. I'll look into it. The belt looked worn, but yeah, I don't know if it's the belt's fault, but probably wouldn't hurt to replace it. Especially if I'm gonna take this thing and end up selling it off, then I'm fixing everything. I'll put a new belt on it, a new carburetor on it, and I'm going to check this cable too, make sure there's no kinks anywhere, make sure that it is pushing and pulling easily, which I think it is. You know, you can hear it, I can feel it, so I'll just have to dig down in there and figure it out. What else? I guess I'll treat for the rust there. The old chrome style handlebar and the chrome metal wheels, I might get rust off of them and then use the black rust reformer. Just paint it all black. It'll stop the rust and it'll probably look pretty good. My main deal is get the carburetor and get this pulley operating correctly. So I think it'll be a pretty good machine. DR really makes some really good stuff, and you can even feel the housing here. They always use pretty thick metal on their stuff. Usually pretty heavy duty. I had a wood chipper there, so I wish I wouldn't have sold it, but it was one of the sturdiest ones I ever had, and it was on a little tow-behind trailer that you can tow it around with your lawn tractor. I ended up selling it. I wish I wouldn't have, but we'll see. I don't know. Maybe I'll keep this one, maybe not. I have another one that, oh, I forget the brand. It's, it'll come to me here in a second. A Swisher, maybe? Yeah, I think it's a Swisher, and it runs pretty good. But I do like a couple of things on this DR better. The Swisher doesn't have a shield like this, and under here I'll see it because it does have that flap on the bottom, which is great. But on the Swisher, underneath in this cavity right here, all that brush and all the stuff gets all caught up inside, and it's a pain in the butt, but you constantly got to clean it out, and it gets wedged up the way it's built. This one looks like it's a little freer, but that belt is exposed, so it'll be interesting to see what this one does, you know, in the heavy stuff, and see how it disperses all the cut grass. Well, I guess that's it. I'll call it quits for this video. We got it running good, well, decent. At least we know it's going to run. And now I'll just replace the carburetor, maybe change the belt, and do the cosmetic work on the handle and the wheels. Maybe I'll have an update on the video. So I guess that's it for this one. We got that DR brush cutter working. Now we just need to do the fine tuning on it and the cosmetic work, and on to the next project.